Let's get into chapter 6 now. All right, so what I want to kind of set you up for is the understanding of what we're really doing here. We're going deeper and deeper into the mechanisms of being a leader, right? The mechanism. And so I was just sharing with my friend that there's a lot of books out there about leadership. I mean, there's hundreds and maybe there's thousands of books on leadership, right? And there's a lot of books that are inspirational or aspirational, and they talk about this great leader and that great leader, or what a leader does, and that's awesome. I think that's all very, very, very good material. But there's not a lot of books that go into the deep inner workings of what it means to show up as a leader. Like, what is the space? What is the mindset? What is the thinking? What is the emotional life? Like, what is happening at a deep inner level that has this leader be very effective with people and situations? And that's what this is about. It's about the inner mechanism of the mind. And having said that, we're now going to go really deep into the inner mechanism of the mind by exploring chapter 6 of the leadership space. Okay, this chapter is about choosing your context. And we've done some work on context. In chapter 2, we talked about the 3 C's: choice, context, contribution. But we then did the interpretation filter in chapter 4 and the observer in chapter 5. And all of those pieces now are going to come together for you to really see how this integrates. And I got a great story to use to teach you this. So I'm excited to share the deeper understanding of context and give you some great takeaways. All right. So first things first, let's put a little picture on the board so we can frame the discussion and quite literally frame the concept. Because, and this is, I don't know what page it's on, but it's in chapter 6, and it's literally talking about the relationship between context and mindset, okay? So this outer frame is the context you choose. And in this chapter, I'm going to share with you 3 contexts. There's probably an infinite number of contexts, but these 3 are money in the bank. I promise you that. If you practice any one of these 3 contexts, especially the first one, but it really could be any 3, you're going to be able to have command of your interpretation filter, of your mindset, of your perception filter, which is going to give you power, as you'll see in the story. Okay, so what are the 3 contexts we're going to explore? Number 1, the opportunity context. Okay, and I'm going to explain it when we get into the story. The opportunity context, very powerful. The second one is the learning context, also very powerful. And then the final one, which I've talked about quite a lot, is the contribution context. Okay? What I like about having 3 contexts ready to go is that if you find yourself in a situation where you've got to shift your space and you've got to take control of what's happening so you can make a difference, then you can instantly look at, okay, what's the opportunity here? What's the learning here? How can I be a contribution? And when I share the story with you and show you the elements, you'll really see how to apply this, and then you can effectively use them. And that's my goal for all of these videos. I want you to come away with a clean lesson, a deep story or illustration, and a powerful takeaway so you can use this in your life. So this model, the context is framing something inside of here. What's it framing? Okay, so it's framing your mindset ultimately. Okay, I mean, we can use another context, just simple, positive or negative. Okay, so, it's a rainy day. Oh, well, that sucks. That's negative. Rain is negative. So then my mindset is, well, I can't accomplish much on a rainy day, right? Well, negative context, the context affects the mindset, right? It affects the way you interpret and see things. Positive context, well, how could I think think positively today about the rainy day? I don't know. Let's just kick back. Maybe we can hang out, make some popcorn, hang out with the kids, watch TV, or maybe I can finally get into that filing cabinet and rework it because I've been wanting to and I never had time, but now I have time. Well, now that positive context changed your mindset from today's a crappy rainy day to today's a great day for me to get something done that's going to help me. Okay? Context frames mindset. Now, what is mindset? And this is what we learned in chapter 4. The mindset is the interpretation filter. Okay? The mindset is the interpretation filter. So the way that you see things gives you an interpretation, and that interpretation is based on the 3 elements of the filter: judgments, stories, points of view. point of view. Okay, so we learned about this in chapter 4, but now understanding how this all works together, okay, we can really, really do something with this now. So let me tell you a story, all right? So, and again, remember, context is important because it gives you power, right? You can even go back to Viktor Frankl and understand that his context could have been, oh my God, I'm stuck in a Nazi prison camp. They've taken everything from me. I have nothing. I might as well die. And if that was his context, he would have died. But that wasn't his context. His context was, how can I use this horrible experience as a lens through which to view the depths of human nature, to discover something scientific, something powerful, something incredible that I can share with the world later? How can I ultimately be a contribution to the world out of this? And that gave him the power to look at his horrible situation as a possible even opportunity, a learning experience, a way to contribute in the future. And it gave him the inner power to move through a very horrible, difficult situation, right? And I love that story because if he could do it, we can do it, right? We're not going to have situations that are that horrible, right? I mean, are we? I hope not. Okay, so it's incredible. For you to be able to develop power, you have to be able to use your context in a wise way. So the story I use in chapter 6 is actually a business story, right? So there's a story about this mid-level manager. I don't remember if I gave him a name, but we can call him Mark or something like that. But anyway, so this mid-level manager, he has been preparing for a meeting tomorrow morning, right? Let's say it's like a Tuesday. And so Wednesday morning, he's going to have a meeting with his team. And it's an all-day thing. It's going to go from 7 a.m. to like probably 5 or 6. And so there's a lot of details. There's a lot that had to be put into place, a lot of thinking that went into it to be able to structure everything and get people on board. And he worked for the whole previous week for like 10 hours working on it. And he's really excited. He's leaving the office. He's got his phone in his hand. He's about to call his wife because he's going to go out to dinner with his wife and kids and have a great time and then get ready for an awesome meeting. And boom, the phone rings and he looks and it's like, oh no, it's his boss. He picks up the phone and the boss says, hey, sorry to tell you this, but we have to change everything for the quarter. So, there's whole new objectives. There's all new things that we have to learn, all new procedures. And I'm sorry to do this, but I sent you an email. It's got a document. It's about 20 pages long, and you got to figure this out. And he says, okay. He hangs up the phone, and his whole body starts to get into almost a rage. Like, why would you do this to me right before I'm about to go to dinner with my family? I have no time to prepare. Everything I did is a waste of time. It's lost. And he's angry. And not only is he angry that could affect his dinner with his family, and it's going to be a miserable night, but the whole next day could be a completely worthless experience. And it could, put a cloud over his whole week, maybe the month, maybe the quarter, depending on how this leader is going to react to that information. So here's the question. How can this leader react to the information from his boss in a way that brings power to himself, his family, and his team? Because if he's able to reframe the information in a powerful way, then he can show up and have a good time at dinner with his family. And he can, equally as importantly, go to his team and actually deliver a meeting that's going to have people be effective and perform and enjoy. And that's our goal. That's our goal. So how could he do this? Well, first thing he's got to look at, boom, what's happening for me? I'm angry. Why am I angry? Become the observer, right? That was chapter 5. You have to become the observer, right, before you can use the 3 C's. So the first C, choice. The guy's skilled. He understands the leadership space. He thinks, all right, this sucks. I get it at the moment. But let me just neutrally observe this. Let me just be with it. All right, I have a choice. I can get upset or I can figure out a better context. So he chooses to rework his context. And in choosing to rework his context, he steps into power. When any of us choose to rework our context, we step into power. We literally get the ability to alter the way the world occurs for us, which gives us the ability to influence the world in a different way. So he says to himself, well, what are the different ways I could look at this? And he says, easily I could look at it positively or negatively. And so now I take you to the deeper insight, the deeper mechanism. What could he look at positively or negatively? Okay, you understand the deeper concept of context, or the broad concept of context, but now we apply the positive or negative context to each of the three elements of the filter. And this is the magic of the chapter, of chapter 6. So if he says, well, you know what? I have a pretty negative judgment of my boss. Why in the hell did she call me right at the end of the day? Why didn't she call me this morning? Why didn't she tell me Friday? And he finds out through the grapevine that the executive team made a decision over the weekend to change the whole quarter. Oh, that's great. That makes me feel important. That sucks. So a negative context, he's going to have a negative judgment. It's going to have a negative reaction, and it's going to have a negative sort of impact on him and the rest of his team, because he's going to resonate out his mood and his emotions, and he's going to communicate in a way that's going to maybe bring others down. So he's got to change that judgment. How can he do it? Well, maybe he makes a positive judgment, okay? And that positive judgment could be something simple. And again, I understand that some of this is like we're looking for a way to alter perception, right? I'm not saying you can't look at reality and just say, well, maybe they did make a bad decision over the weekend. Maybe they should have communicated with us a week before while we're trying to put this meeting together and putting 10 hours of work into it. Yeah, that could be true. But that thought is not going to give you any power to have a great dinner with your family or a great meeting with your team. It's not. So you can later on communicate with upper management. You can say, look, it really has an impact when these last minute decisions come down. How do we create a better mechanism of communication so I can prepare to be more effective and make the company money? Okay, that's totally appropriate and should happen, actually. But what we're talking about right now is your ability to take command of your own inner space, your leadership space, so that you can control the way things are going to flow for you, and you can take control of what you do have control of. So positive judgment could be, you know what? The company trusts me. My boss, maybe she thinks I can handle it. You know what? She believes that I can kind of, flow with information and adapt. And so I'm just going to consider that, you know what? I have the ability to do that, and they trust me to do it, and I'm going to do it, right? And so that's one way to look at it. There's other ways to look at it, but just take a first cut, okay? Positive judgment. Positive and negative story. Okay, well, if I have a negative story, I'm thinking to myself, dude, the company doesn't care about any of us. They just hang around the weekend. Maybe they're out having drinks thinking, how can we screw up the employees' lives for the week? I mean, you could tell yourself that negative story, could you not? You could. You could get really upset. Or you could say something very different, and you could say, you know what? Maybe they're dealing with pressures and they're trying to figure out, how do we maintain jobs? How do we actually not have layoffs? How do we actually find a way to navigate through this future that's changing so quickly? And so they got information and they had to change. All right, so that story went from negative to positive. And so when you change that story, you shift your mindset. You're shifting the whole experience of the event. And now you have some power to go have a decent dinner and have a good meeting. That's the beginning, okay? We'll do more. Point of view. You can think about this from your point of view. I'm impacted. My team's impacted. The company did this to me, to my team. Or you could say, wait a second, let me go into my boss's point of view. All right. And you think, I wonder what happened for her. Maybe her leadership, the people above her put so much pressure on her that she, had to figure out, how do I deal with this? And so she's now communicating to me, what she needs that we can make a difference for, the trajectory of the company. She wasn't out to attack me. She's dealing what she's dealing with. And now I can actually hope to make a difference for her. So you're getting out of your point of view, which is bringing you down, and you get into her point of view, which gives you some freedom and some room to have a different reaction. Okay? So the key thing I'm saying is that when you practice the deeper understanding of context, you're actually going into each element of the filter and reframing it, okay? You can reframe it from negative to positive, and that will give you some power. But we can have a lot more impact and power if we start to practice totally different contexts. And I have to say, I'll tell you through the story, that probably one of the most powerful contexts you can create in almost any experience or event is to take on the opportunity context, because it completely pulls you out of a negative spiral, of a negative experience. It pulls you out and it puts you in the power of the creator of your life, the creator of your destiny, the creator of your circumstance, right? The creator of your perception is what's happening. So how would you apply, think about it. How would you apply the opportunity context to the story of the mid-level manager? How would you do that? He gets the phone call. He finds out the whole meeting has to change. He's on his way to dinner. He's thinking about his team. He's thinking about, how do I execute? What's going to happen? If this guy says to himself, you know what is the opportunity here, right? Not even positive or negative. We're beyond that now. We've moved beyond that to something even better. What is the opportunity here? And as the moment he thinks, what's the opportunity? A light bulb goes on because he's able to see the circumstance from a completely different viewpoint. And so what is the opportunity? Think about it. What could be the opportunity between him and his team and the meeting coming up in the new information? And this is the way I wrote it in the chapter, and I think it works. He could think to himself, you know what? There's not much that I can do to rework 20 pages of material between now and 7 a.m. And I'm not going to abandon my family and not go to dinner because that's just going to make everybody upset. So I'm going to go to dinner and I'm going to think to myself, you know what? There is an opportunity here because usually I'm directing everything. I'm planning everything. This is an opportunity for me to actually create teamwork. Okay? So here's an opportunity for teamwork. And how's he going to get there? And I'll tell you one of the most powerful principles of leadership, and I give acknowledgement to a couple of authors. Brene Brown talked about this. I think there's others, but I'll give her the principal amount of credit here, that she talks about the power of vulnerability, right? The power of vulnerability. And it really works here because if this leader goes to his team and he says, guys, look, 7 a.m., I just got information last night, pretty much when I was on my way to dinner, and everything I had planned today isn't going to work. So let me share with you, what the new stuff is. Maybe I can even share with you what I was going to say. And then, look, let's take this as an opportunity. I'm going to just kind of give you guys the floor. Let's think as a team. Let's work creatively because, frankly, I can't do this by myself. I just can't. I don't even have the time to figure it out. So let's look at this together and figure out what can we do to cause a positive effect here. Where's the opportunity for us to work together? And let me give you guys some power to do it. That opportunity context shifts everything. You see that? Okay, the other one would be learning opportunity, which kind of goes with it. Where is the opportunity to learn, or what can be learned inside this moment? The learning context completely shifts your frame. And I'm losing my voice. I gotta clip this here, but finally the contribution context. If he thinks to himself, you know what? All right, I get it. I see that it's changing. How can I be a contribution to my team, to my company, to my family? What can I do? That also completely shifts the judgment, stories, and point of view because you're not so worried about the impact on you. You're thinking about your impact on others. Taken together, these three contexts, opportunity, learning, contribution, are game changers for you because you can literally use those contexts to fundamentally alter the way that you're seeing life come at you, which means you can alter the way you come at life. And that is the core of your leadership space.